Are you starting your journey into learning how to sew and you're wondering if you're missing anything? Well, here is your top 20 checklist to make sure you're not missing out on anything. One year of weekly videos I've been putting out on Fridays to help you in your fashion sewing journey. Simple tips to little different tips. So hopefully you've learned a lot. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and hit the little bell. That'll give you a notice every time a new video comes out. And I'm also going to be switching my videos from Fridays to Saturday mornings because I did a survey with my fashion sewers and they tend to sew a lot on the weekends. So I'm going to move it to Saturdays. So don't forget to subscribe and let's get into the video. So this week's video is all about the top 20 things to look for in a beginner sewing class. I get calls weekly from people, they want to learn how to sew, but they don't quite know where to start. I say if you're living in North Carolina near me, come to an introduction to sewing class, get you started. If not, I also have an online version of that whole class with actually a lot more in it. It's only $27. I'll put the link below. Introduction to Fashion Sewing Boot Camp, learning to sew. So everything you kind of need to know, all the basic stuff, and then also threading the sewing machine and stuff. That's the place to start. But sewing is not the sewing machine. Sewing is a lot broader. There's more stuff in sewing. I can't even say, I just want to go through this checklist with you. I also have this checklist available in the links below to get you the whole checklist, and then you can follow it through. So if you're learning on YouTube, this will help you kind of know where to pinpoint what you need to learn to get a good, strong foundation on your sewing journey. Because sewing can be a little like, what do I learn next? What is that? What is that? There's a lot of techniques in sewing. It took me years and years to learn how to sew really well. So be patient with yourself, number one, and enjoy it. Just learn and enjoy it. Also, don't skip the foundations because then you're going to have to eventually come back to it too because you're going to find out you're on the struggle bus. So number one, so I have this checklist right here, and I was trying to think, like, when I was teaching my classes, what my students were always asking me questions of, and I would always refer back to, like, okay, remember when we learned this? Remember when we learned that? And this should be a good foundation for you. So number one is, what's a seam allowance? What is the usual fraction used in commercial patterns? What's a seam allowance? There's the seam, and then there's the seam allowance. Now that's sew bit number 23. It'll explain everything. So make a checklist of what you don't know here and which ones to refer back to. I also have on the checklist what sew bit number it's referred to, so that'll help. Then next is, what is the selvage of a fabric bolt? My heater just went off. Shut that off. It's cold in this studio right now. What is the selvage of a fabric? Sew bit number 18. The selvage will tell you which way the grain lines go and all that, so check that one out. What is interfacing and what's it used for? Sew bit number 13. That helps give your fabric a little more stability, fusible or sew on. When loading in the bobbin, very important, get you through the sewing machine part. Which direction does the thread go in your machine? There is a direction, so if you put the bobbin in, you got a 50% chance of it being right. Know it, which way it goes, and then you have a 100% chance, and you just get that machine threaded and you can move on to the good stuff. That's what I always tell my students. Let's get this machine started. Sew bit number 18 is all about the 3 grain lines in a fabric: length grain, cross grain, and bias grain. And why are they important? Fabric is a designer's medium. That's what we use. So fabric is more important than a sewing machine. That's what I think. So I think you need to know fabrics, and there's thousands and thousands of varieties of fabrics. So you're not going to get to know them all in one class. It's about learning to work with different fabrics. And I always say use the cottons first, a woven, not a knit. Knits are a whole little different thing. little different to cut, a little different. The grain lines are hard to find on knits. So start with the wovens. That's my number one tip. Start with the wovens. What is clipping the curves? That's sew bit number 4. Whenever you're working with anything in a curve, like a circle or something, you got to clip the seams to help it roll inside out. Important. What are the needle sizes and types? That's sew bit number 10. You have to have the right needle for the right fabric. And also knit versus woven needles. Really important. If you hear weird noises coming out of your machine, like it's going through the fabrics, like bump, 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 probably something's wrong with your needle. It could be chipped or not in right, or usually the wrong needle. Or it's just kind of blunt and it needs a sharp needle. If your stitches are skipping, it's usually always the needle. What are the most commonly used presser feet? That is sew bit number 15. There's a lot of presser feet out there. Don't get nervous about all of them. I only use maybe 3 of them. I don't know. Just never used a lot of feet. I know the kind of techniques without the feet. I don't know why. I think I just learned that way. But there's a lot of feet available, like ruffle feet and blind hem feet and all that stuff. But don't get worried about that in your beginning. Just know your zipper foot, the zigzag foot, straight foot. Real simple, but sew bit number 15 will help you with all that. Real important beginner part here is what is the stitch length and what is the width of a stitch. Width is not as important. That's usually in the zigzag. Stitch, motorcycle guy. Stitch length, real important. Sew bit 16. And also I hopefully go over there not pulling your fabric so that the feed dogs that are giving you your stitch length, sounds kind of weird, don't get messed up. They just have to don't pull your fabric or push your fabric or pull your fabric kind of thing. Hold it back. Let the feed dogs take it. You'll figure it out when you see sew bit number 16. What are the notches and circles used for? If you look on a pattern, there's all these little notches and then there's circles, there's little circles, big circles. What are they all? What is that? That is basically the instructions. When you take that pattern piece off, you transfer those all over to your fabric. I tell you where things go, where to start and stop stitching, how to match seams up, all that kind of stuff. Real important. Really important. Why do you pivot the fabric and use reverse stitching? There's a thing I do in my beginner class where we do a kind of a zigzag shape and there's a pivoting in the middle of it, and we use that a lot. And I always watch the students to see if I don't tell them about this little way of doing it, and most of them don't do it, but as soon as they learn that pivoting thing, they're like, oh, well that was simple. So it's pretty fun to watch. I like that. That is sew bit number 5. Wow, way up there. I'm at number 50. This is number 52. What are the common fabric widths? So a bolt of fabric, how wide did they become? If you look on the back of your patterns, it's 45 or 60. It says it on there. That's the fabric width of the bolts there. So what does that mean? That's sew bit number 14. What is nap? Directional or pile nap. That is all about the fabric. Real important to know. When you're working with corduroys or velvets, satins, if you ever notice one side will be shiny and the other side won't, kind of thing. So that'll explain it all. Takes a while to explain it. Sew bit number 12. What does 9 inches down, when you see it on the back of a pattern, it says hip measurement, 9 inches down. What does that mean? Why is it on every pattern? What does it mean? Like, nobody ever knows what it means. But after you watch sew bit number 11, you'll know what it means. Then we have, how are pattern sizes different than retail sizes? This is a big one. Even after I tell my students this, they just don't believe me. I'm just the messenger. Sew bit number 20 will explain that. So I wear a size 10, 12 in the stores. Okay, 12. Not 10 anymore. This is, COVID kind of screwed that up. But I wear like 18 pattern. If I bought an 18 pattern in the store, it would swim on me. So, very big difference in patterns. Patterns are not the culprit, it's the retailers. I'll tell you the whole story in sew bit number 20. Baste stitch. What is it used for? This is sew bit number 3, way back at the beginning. At the beginning of my sew bits, I went through all the instructions, the leaflets and the patterns, and went through and pulled out the words that they'll just say baste. And to the new sewer, you're going, baste what? What does that mean? Baste a turkey? I didn't know if we were cooking here. I thought we were sewing. So, sew bit number 13, what does baste mean? That's really important. You'll see that a lot in sewing. Pressing tools and techniques, huge importance. Sew bit number 22. I pretty much press after every seam, most of them. Pressing is key to professional looking garments. Or any project, even making placemats, it's key. So watch sew bit 22. Okay. What is the finished garment measurement? It's number 21. It has to do with all the patterns, how they fit. It's kind of a guessing game, like is that pattern going to fit right or not? But if you know about finished garment measurements, and actually the next one is wearing ease and design ease. Those are both sewing number 20 or sew bit number 21. Explains it, how the pattern is pattern drafting. I took 4 years of pattern drafting in design school, and that's what we work with. It's the formula. So don't expect to know it unless you go to design school. So this is kind of simply trying to help you understand patterns, that kind of stuff. Okay, my last one, but I actually added another one. The last one, number 20, is what is bias tape and what is it used for? You're probably not going to learn that in a beginner class, but you will be seeing it in a lot of pattern instructions. That's sew bit number 19. And you'll use bias tape a lot to finish edges and all. It's a really great little technique. Bias cut fabric in different, you see the envelopes, bias tapes. You can also make your own bias tape. Great way to finish stuff. I don't know, just watch that sew bit number 19. Then I just added sew bit number 42 to my list here, and that was simply how to wind bobbins. Really kind of fun. A lot of my students love to wind bobbins because it's like speed, just like, and it's just fun. And it takes like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So if you run out of a bobbin, it's pretty quick and easy to do. The problem is sometimes you have to unthread the top part of your machine and then you thread it. But my goal is with my students is always to just get that threading done, make it easier, just like that. It's like driving. When you learn how to drive, when you first started, it was like, okay, gear, this, that, your foot, this, that. The only thing not working if you're driving automatic is your left foot. And the sewing, the same thing. The only thing not working is your left foot, because you got your foot going, you got this the hand wheel, and this one doing something else. So getting that whole threading part down, just if you do it every day, just thread the machine. Make sure you thread it right, because you're not going to learn anything if you're just threading it and not threading it right. Use a piece of scrap fabric. Go through it, test it, make sure you did it right, and really get that machine threaded, done, out of the way, because the machine is just a tool. It sews seams. So just be able to thread it and done it. We actually do little competitions here at my school with the students, and we do timing. We're like, how many times? We're up like 20, 30 seconds to thread a machine. That's nothing. So great. My beginners sometimes, if they don't practice, they're in here for 10 and 20 minutes trying to thread their machine. That is time lost to getting to the good stuff, I say. So check out these sew bits, and if you need a beginner sewing class, check out the Learning to Sew boot camp that goes through pretty much a lot of all this stuff. I think I have everything except bias tape in there, and it's $27 investment. And even if you are if you've kind of dabbled around, it's a good one to really learn the foundations in a nice sequence. Just, okay, how do we do this? And then be done with it and get on to the good stuff. So anyway, I'll see you in the next sew bit.